welcome back to EDH Deck Building. I am your host, Demo, and I've decided to make a quick video about Double Masters 2 or Double Masters 2022. I've heard people refer to it as Triple Masters, although I'm sure that's not the actual moniker. It's a reprint set. For those who don't know, just reprinting cards. There's nothing new here. I don't normally talk about reprint sets, but this one I think is very significant for the Commander format. And anything that's significant about the Commander format, I like to talk about. There is a lot of really impactful reprints here, which is great for Commander players, of course. Another great thing about reprints is sometimes they do different art. I'm a big art guy myself. I love the new Weathered Wayfarer. I think this is a great reprint. I think it's a great Commander card. Cost is a huge thing here, right? The more you reprint these cards, the less they're going to cost. Weathered Wayfarer is not too bad. I think it's a fantastic card in the format, not only because it is a, go get lands option in white. More importantly, it gets any land, which is what makes it significant, I think. Love the new art here. I'm going to have to get my hands on this one for sure, at least one of them. Just some really great alternate arts here. I'll call out Animar Soul of Elements. This guy looks fantastic. I love the new art here. I don't have an Animar deck myself. Obviously, there's a lot of people that do. The alternate art here looks really, really sweet, I think. I have to give a mention to the new Chaos Warp, okay? Obviously a great reprint, Chaos Warp for Commander, but the alternate art here with the butterflies, my patrons absolutely love it. I gotta be honest, I don't love the no border. I don't love borderless cards myself. The art isn't really my thing either, but man, I asked my patrons what they really like about the new Double Masters, and a lot of them really love this new Chaos Warp. They think the art is amazing. Not for everybody, but it certainly is interesting for sure. Of course, we got Eternal Witness, Oracle of Moldiah, right? Commander staples, so it's always good to see reprints like that. There's a great Rampant Growth, and for those who don't know, this is not new art. This is actually the 7th edition art. 7th edition was sort of notorious or infamous for having really, really good art. The only problem is, of course, it's white bordered, and a lot of people like myself don't want to use white bordered cards, so they took that really interesting 7th edition art and they put a black border on it. So just another, again, interesting art option for people. We got Damnation, again, another great reprint for Commander. One of the better board wipes in the format for sure, especially if you don't have access to white. It's definitely getting up there with regards to non-white board wipes. It's one of the best. Bloom Tender, a card that, man, I don't know why they haven't reprinted this card more. It used to be worth a fortune. It's not as bad anymore. So of course now they decide to reprint it. It has waned a little bit in popularity. This is one of those cards, especially when the 4-color Commanders came out in 2016. Man, this card exploded in price. Everybody wanted it for their 4-color Commander decks because it taps for each color of permanents you control. And if you had your 4-color Commander out, this guy would tap for 4 mana, which of course is amazing. It is one of the best mana dorks in the format, no question. And of course it's giving you the colors that you need, which makes it even better. So really great reprint there, I think. We got reprints in 2 of the best removal spells in the format, I think, Assassin's Trophy and Anguished Unmaking. And again, cards that are kind of getting up there in price. Been reprinted a couple times, so they're not as bad anymore. These are, in the discussion, in my opinion, for the best removal spells in the entire format. Instant speed. They're hitting any permanent if you're an Assassin's Trophy. For Anguished Unmaking, it's non-land permanent, but then you get the Exile, which is really nice. Definitely, in my opinion, in the discussion for some of the best removal spells in the format, which of course you always want to be putting in your Commander decks. If I'm playing a white-black deck, Anguished Unmaking goes in there for sure. And if I'm playing a deck with black and green, Assassin's Trophy is going to be my first choice for removal. So it's really good to see them reprint cards like this because removal is one of those things that you absolutely want to have in every deck. So it's nice for everyone to be able to have access to it, right? We got another reprint of Consecrated Sphinx, and I can't believe how expensive this guy still is. It's been reprinted a few times now, still pretty expensive. A card that I don't typically use myself, but a lot of people obviously still do. It's been a Commander staple forever. Always good to see a reprint of cards like that. Getting to the really important stuff though, like Frixion Alter, this is one that I definitely think needed to be reprinted for sure. It is a card that is one of the best sack outlets in the history of the game. Being able to sack creatures to add mana is incredibly important. This is a really expensive card, at least for most people it is. So reprinting these cards is always going to bring the price down a little bit. And I know a lot of these reprints in this set are actually going to be more expensive than the original. So maybe not these ones you want to run out and buy, but if it brings down the price on the original one, either way it's sort of a win-win for people to have easier access to some of these cards, right? And Frixion Alter is definitely a card that is just a staple in certain archetypes. And if you have a deck like that, you really, really want to get your hands on one. So it's nice to see them reprinting it. Another card that I just don't know if they can reprint too many times, Crucible of Worlds. Being able to play lands from your graveyard is obviously super important in certain archetypes, but you could almost throw this in any deck. You know, there's lots of decks out there that you wouldn't even think a Crucible of Worlds would work. And it actually does, like a Tormod deck, for instance. If you have Tormod as your commander or one of your commanders, Crucible of Worlds is great there because you can play lands from your graveyard, get those zombie tokens because it's a card leaving your graveyard. Obviously an expensive card because people want to get their hands on it. It's good that they're reprinting it. Has been reprinted quite a bit and is still a pretty expensive card. But again, the more they reprint them, the more it's going to bring the price down. You know, again, cards like Eternal Witness and Soul Ring, those were really expensive cards back in the day because they didn't have reprints. But because they've reprinted them so much, they're now very affordable for everybody. I remember when Eternal Witness came out in 5th Dawn, that was like a $25, $30 card for a while. But now it's been reprinted so much, it's easily affordable for everybody, right? So it's good to see them reprint cards like this. You know, Crucible of Worlds is a powerful card, and I'm not the guy who's going to say, oh, we'll reprint these cards 1,000 times so that they're worthless. But because it has such a very specific and powerful, unique effect, you want people to have access to it, right? Because it is a colorless card especially, it can fit in every deck. So I think it's really important for people to be able to get their hands on one if they need it for their deck. Getting to the really important stuff though, to Fairies Protection, again, another card that can go in pretty much any deck that you're playing that's white. It's always going to be great. Probably the best protection spell in the entire format. Got really, really expensive there for a while because I think people realized how good it was. So everyone started shoehorning it into all their decks, myself included. It's a good thing they're reprinting it. Even a couple more reprints wouldn't hurt. Again, obviously a commander staple. There is so many commander staples in this set. I mean, it really seems like they're targeting commander players like they do with every set. But in this set particularly, they really seem to be targeting commander players with a lot of these super chase commander staples like the Fairies Protection. I know I wouldn't mind getting my hands on a couple more. Next up, we got Sensei's Divining Top. There's another card that I was really hoping they would reprint at some point. And it's interesting, people complained about Battle for Baldur's Gate not having a lot of great reprints, and I think obviously the case is that they saved all the great reprints for this set, and I'm not going to get into conspiracy theories about why exactly they did that. I will say that they probably assumed commander players would be buying Battle for Baldur's Gate anyway, and now they're giving commander players a really good reason to run out and buy Double Masters. I mean, it is what it is. Nevertheless, Sensei's Divining Top is a card that I just put in a lot of decks. It works so good with so many different strategies, whether it be manipulating the top of your library, playing off the top of your library. It can go infinite with a couple of different scenarios. It's a really, really great versatile card that can get used for a lot of different things. And having a card like this be super expensive so that people can't put it into the deck where it works so well is the reason why I'd like to see these reprints so much. I really like the way the etched foil one looks. I think I'm going to grab one of those myself at some point, just because this has been a personal favorite of mine, this card, since it first came out in Champions of Kamigawa. I was always a big fan of this card since I first saw it. I thought it was great. I really like knowing what I'm drawing next. You know, that alone for me makes this card one that I want to put in all my decks. Obviously I don't, but in particular strategies, it's just a must. Next up, we got Dockside Extortionist and Smothering Tithe, of course. Two cards that people have been waiting for reprints for a long, long time. Two cards that you could put in any deck. They're both fantastic in the Commander format. Not really much you need to say here. Again, both of them got new art. I really like the Dockside Extortionist art, pretty cool. Smothering Tithe got a really interesting alternate art on it as well that I'm sure a lot of people are going to want to get their hands on. So obviously, fantastic reprints for the Commander format. I don't think anything else needs to be said there. Concordant Crossroads next, and I can't believe they reprinted this one. I mean, it's a world enchantment. When is the last time they reprinted a world enchantment? I can't remember. You know, world enchantment is a dead card type, I guess. It doesn't exist anymore. Hasn't been printed since, I believe, Mirage was the last set that did it many, many moons ago. I did a world enchantments video on my channel because I talk about world enchantments quite a bit. I think they're all pretty fantastic in the format. Concordant Crossroads is a fantastic one to reprint in the format because it is a mono green option for giving your creatures haste, which a lot of decks really want to do. Obviously, red does this incredibly well, right? Mass Hysteria, 1 red mana enchantment, all creatures have haste. It's the exact same card, but in red, not nearly as expensive for a number of reasons because red has lots of options for giving things haste. Green, not so much, right? The original printing of this is incredibly expensive, obviously, from Legends. The Chronicles one is a little cheaper. They did a secret layer drop, which is not too bad. Now they're reprinting one, which is, I think, a little more accessible for people, right? Because you basically had a secret layer drop and then 2 really, really old sets, which are super difficult to get your hands on. Now we got a new set with this. I think it's super interesting that they reprinted a World Enchantment card. This is a great one in the format, again, because if you're in that mono green theme, gives all creatures haste, but if you really want your creature to have haste, if you're playing a Yisan deck, if you're playing a Selvala deck, one of those decks where you want to immediately activate your commander, probably, it's a fantastic fit for a lot of decks that want to give their creatures haste but don't have access to red. Really, really great reprint. And I'll end off with Imperial Seal. And this one I just had to talk about. I couldn't believe they reprinted this. It's kind of funny. It's such a ridiculously expensive card. The original printing was from Portal 3 Kingdoms, which is a notoriously expensive set because not only is it old, but they didn't print a lot of cards, right? It's sort of weird with the Portal sets. It was sort of meant to be used for up-and-coming Magic players or people that were trying to learn the game. The rules were a little more simplified or the wording was simplified, so it was supposed to get you into the game. Those cards became legal in like Legacy and other sets like Commander, so all of a sudden people had access to them in those formats and they became big time sought after and really, really expensive. Imperial Seal obviously being the most expensive because it is a 1 mana tutor, right? Which is great in a lot of formats, especially Commander. They reprinted it a couple times, but really, really expensive. It's still really expensive, but a lot less expensive. I just thought it would be interesting to bring this one up because it is such a ridiculously expensive card and I'm actually surprised that they reprinted it. I mean, it's telling me that the etched foil right now is $850. Okay, so still ridiculously expensive. I'm sure there's going to be a lot of people running out and buying packs of this set just to see if they can crack open an Imperial Seal. Nevertheless, a lot of fantastic Commander cards from this set. Really impressed with some of these cards. Again, I don't usually talk about these sets because it's just reprints, but there is so many great Commander cards that they reprinted in this set. Obviously, again, they're trying to get Commander players to run out and buy these cards. And if they're trying to do that, they definitely succeeded because there is so many fantastic cards reprinted in this set for Commander. I'm really happy myself with some of the reprints here. So that's why I wanted to make a quick video about this set. What do you guys think? What are your favorite reprints from this set that I didn't mention, if any? There are a bunch of great ones. Again, including that alternate art, right? They got some really sweet alternate arts in there as well that people might want of some of your favorite Commanders. Let me know in the comments below, but that is it for today, and thanks for tuning in.